All right, Martin Popoff here, back for another episode of Overkill Rewind. This is the show where we ask you, our viewers, to tell us the greatest heavy metal albums of a certain year. We're going back to 1985. This is actually going to be a really interesting episode where the new and more extreme heavy bands start taking over from the stuff that has been kind of winning a lot of the earlier years, even up until 81, 82 kind of thing. World events at that time, you had Live Aid, you had New Coke, Michael Jordan was Rookie of the Year, the AIDS pandemic was blowing up, you had the rise of Mikhail Gorbachev in the USSR, there was a big Mexican earthquake, killed 7,000 people. On the lighter note, back in our music world, this was a big year for Bruce Springsteen with Born in the USA, Bryan Adams with Reckless, Madonna, Like a Virgin, Wham, Make It Big, Tina Turner, Private Dancer, Phil Collins, No Jacket Required. Just a very big year. I mean, this is MTV is going crazy. So it's a big year in the music industry in general. Okay, let's get to it. These are the results from all of your voting. We have very, very smart viewers and lots and lots of votes to tabulate. So this worked out really cool. Our number 5 slot, so we're going in reverse order up to the number 1, was Celtic Frost to Therion. And it is Celtic Frost, according to Tom G. Warrior, because it's the use of the word Celtic from the German influence. Of course, this is a Swiss band, right? So October 27th of that year, Noise Records. This is a band that that sort of exemplifies that cross hybrid between thrash and death and doom and black metal the way Venom did. They're kind of second in line, and this is the debut album after the Morbid Tales EP. It's beautifully produced. It's crushingly drummed by Reed St. Mark. Tom G. Warrior's voice is incredible. There's grinding grooves. It's a little bit artistic, which is exemplified or underscored by the cover art, H.R. Geiger. So yeah, this got a lot of votes, and it deserves to be here because it is quite a groundbreaker. And like I say, it's a pretty artistic album. And yeah, Dominic Steiner is on bass here. Of course, he's going to be replaced by Martin Ain soon, who is sadly no longer with us. But yeah, just a really cool album and not hard on the ears. It's actually very beautifully produced, I think. So Celtic Frost, what does this deserve on our skull rating? I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 skulls. Number 4 in the top albums of 1985, as voted by you, is Exodus, Bonded by Blood. This record was released on Combat Records, and there's always been a lot of drama with Combat. You know, maybe they didn't run their business quite so well, but everybody always kind of complained about these early Combat deals. But this album, unfortunately, didn't come out till April of 1985 when it was recorded. It was finished by summer of 84. And I find it a little bit... dated even by that time, because essentially, you know, you had Metallica Kill 'Em All kind of set the ground rules for thrash, and then Metallica was coming back with an incredible album in 1984 already with Ride the Lightning, which is, you know, one of the greatest thrash albums of all time. But look at the increase in songwriting or increase in quality. Here it sounds a little dated. Paul Bailoff is kind of like a shouty, maybe not so much of a singing singer. So, you know, good album. Is it truly a great album? It's a great album for its time. But as I say, even at its time, it was getting a tiny bit dated. But it's quite competently recorded. There's a lot of great riffs on it. It just feels like some of these other bands are starting to kind of progress past them. They always had a lot of bad luck in this band, and this is kind of bad luck too. Because the other cool thing about Exodus is a lot of these songs go back even further than, you know, when they were recorded. I mean, you know, obviously there's the famous story of Kirk Hammett coming from the band and moving to Metallica, but even that even dates it a little more. So these guys are really one of the early bands, but it isn't reflected in the fact that this album comes out. I'm going to give this one 3.5 skulls out of 5 skulls. moving on. Number 3 in our top albums of 1985, as voted on by you, our viewers, Anthrax, Spreading the Disease. So incredible album. This is the second Anthrax album after a debut that and the leaps in quality are miles and miles. I mean, the first one is barely even you would call it a thrash album. I mean, it's good and it's well recorded, but it's not moving into this new kind of metal. This is just a really well-written, quality, well-sequenced thrash album, beautifully produced by Carl Kennedy and as an engineer, Alex Perialis, right? This is the first album by the band, not immediately, but because of their later success, to go gold in a row. First of 4 to go gold in a row. So that's pretty impressive. This is one of the bigger sellers on this list. But beautiful. Crushing guitar tones. Charlie's drumming is legendary on this record. Madhouse, they even made a video and it was a little bit of an MTV hit. So really cool album, good choice. It's probably my favorite album of these 5 on that actually made the list. I'm gonna go 5 skulls out of 5 skulls on Anthrax. How's that? Okay, moving on. Number 2, getting up to that top slot. Number 2 on our top albums of 1985 is Slayer with Hell Awaits. All right, so this is the second Slayer album, although in between there was the Haunting the Chapel EP. This is a big leap in quality from the debut. The debut has this kind of wet, reverby recording. This is a little more crushing, although the songwriting, I don't think, is a huge improvement on this. I remember at the time, everybody loved this album. It was Slayer. It was really heavy for its day, but it is a little hard on the ears because the recording is good, but it's got some harshness to it. And 5 out of the 7 songs on it are super fast. They're all sort of the same speed. It's almost a little bit of like a D-beat, punky beat to them. But and also because of that, Tom Arai's vocals on top, he has to be pretty shouty and spitting the words out really fast, and it just comes off as a little bit too frantic. This one I picked is one of the rare ones that's actually a little bit slower on it. There's Crypts of Eternity on here that has that sort of halftime double bass groove as well. But yeah, it's a big step up from the debut, and then of course we're going to get into that charming golden period later with Rain and Blood the very next year. And my 2 favorite would be, I'd probably say Sell to Heaven is probably my favorite out of the catalog. But this is a step in the right direction. But I don't know how great it is. I'm going to go 3 skulls out of 5 skulls on Slayer. All right, so moving up to our number 1 slot, this is the album you guys voted far and away. This got way more votes than anything else as the best metal album of 1985. Megadeth, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. All right, so here's Angry Dave coming out of the Metallica situation. He's got something to prove, and boy, does he prove it. I mean, this is right off the bat when this came out, it was considered kind of like the thinking man's thrash album. It's pretty proggy. It's difficult to play. Gar Samuelson is in there. We've got David Ellefson, Chris Poland, who's almost like a jazz fusion-y type guy coming into this situation, creating this thrash. The one thing about it, well, a couple things about it aren't so great. Dave's vocals are pretty raw, and he's not the greatest singer of all time, and he doesn't have the greatest voice. So he's not an amazing singer, nor does he have a good voice. Those are 2 separate things. So always from the start, this has always been kind of one of the slight weaknesses of the band. This is the first album that didn't certify, and then they had a string of six in a row, 6 albums in a row certified gold and platinum. So Megadeth was a really successful band, but there was a lot of respect for this album right away for its progressiveness, and like I say, it's thinking man's thrash thing. It's got the These Boots cover, and it's got the kind of redo of the Metallica song in Mechanics, justified redo because Dave was, he was in there on the songwriting and that. But really fast, really technical. And I guess the other thing that's not great about it is the lead guitar sound is very screechy and frantic and hard on the ears. Even the rhythm guitar sound is not great, and all of the production is a little bit dodgy, right? Came out on Combat. This was June 12th of 85, so middle of the year. But yeah, the production is not great. They're a little raw, and they quickly improve and change a lot in their style as things move on. En route to one of the greatest thrash albums of all time, Rust in Peace. That's pretty much undisputed. So yeah, what do I give this out of on our skull rating? Let's go with 3.5 out of 5 skulls on this one. Wanted to mention a couple of honorable mentions here, 5 honorable mentions in terms of, like, this is strictly from the voting. So this is the Democratic part continued, right? Next one that was big was Possess 7 Churches. There's an influential death thrash album, again, along that Venom, Celtic Frost vein. Helloween, Walls of Jericho. They're totally different kind of music here compared to what we've been talking about. The Birth of Power Metal, great power metal classic. Similar to that, another German band, Accept with Metal Heart, my second favorite Accept album, but pretty commercial and clean, produced by Dieter Dierks. That got a lot of votes. Yngwie Malmsteen's first album after the mostly instrumental one. So Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force Marching Out, absolute drop dead classic of power metal, and that, that total uniqueness that is Yngwie Malmsteen. Really, really good album. And then surprisingly, Dokken, Under Lock and Key, got a lot of votes. So there's your first hair metal album that we've talked about in this episode. There's no old school bands really in this thing so far. It's like the younger bands have taken over by 1985. So it's pretty interesting what's happening here. Now, here's the part where I get to add 5 that I would have liked to seen in here. I want to do this a little differently because I'm not going to mention anything else except for one. I'm not going to mention anything else that was voted upon and got lots and lots of votes. So go to the comments. There's a ton of comments in the call for votes. So go look at the comments and you'll see many, many, many other great albums listed there. But I just want to mention one that did get a lot of votes that I love and would have liked to have seen in here. That's Sabotage, Power of the Night, their second album. Amazing album. And some that didn't get a lot of votes or any, as far as I know. Gravediggers' second album, Witch Hunter. I thought that was almost as good as Heavy Metal Breakdown. Really cool album. And then a couple of us, a really obscure one, Trance Victory, a German band with a Dan McCafferty type, growly singer on it, and really cool commercial. I thought they should have been bigger. Another one like that, 220 Volt, Mind Over Muscle. Go listen to those first 3 220 Volt albums. They're amazing Swedish Frostcore music, right? Really, really cool, heavy, but melodic, like all that Swedish stuff. So that was a really cool, heavy album. And then a weird one, Wasted's The Good, the Bad, and the Wasted. Pete Way and Paul Chapman. That whole situation with that cool post UFO band, kind of a Stonesy band. But that's it. Those are our 3 categories. Like I say, I'm not allowed to mention anything else. I don't want to mention anything else. I've probably gone on too long. We will be doing this again for other years. So please join us for other years. And before I leave, don't forget to subscribe. And again, any Patreon support would be greatly appreciated. So there you go. 1985. Go play some of these records and we'll talk to you again next time.